Your slide.
What's the matter?
Your line.
I'm on it. Okay, we're gonna start this work session. Okay, and we'll call it to order, and I don't have the agenda for the work session. Do you need to do a roll call?
No, you just stand up.
Okay. Mayor Smith? Trustee Fisher?
Trustee Check.
Oh, thanks.
You've been always prepared. It doesn't mean.
Yes, that's good. Thank you. All right. So this is a work session for trustees and public to understand the process that we use a lot when we have to hire contractors, and that is requests for proposals and requests for qualifications. And I think it was one of those things that had come up as probably a point where a lot of people aren't familiar with it. So this seemed like a good topic for the first work session. And at this point, Stefan, can I turn it over to you? Excuse me. If you just want to speak up and kind of, well, here's first of all, Stefan, I think you would probably like to start with the. Can I have people outside to shut the door or move down or come in, whichever you're going to do? Thank you.
I apologize.
That's okay. Stefan, did you want to start with the purchasing policy? We have a link to it in our agenda packet. Or do you want to just talk about it?
Sure, we can go over the purchasing policy. Let me see if I can share my screen real quick. Okay, you should be able to see the purchasing policy now online. Okay. So in 2024, we actually passed an ordinance that put procurement policies in place, also some spending limits based on people's different roles within the town. As part of that, we also passed a resolution, or the board also passed a resolution adopting a purchasing policy manual. And that really gives how we go about procuring services, goods, equipment, construction projects, things like that for the town. That's readily available on our website. I clicked that link and that's what pulled up. But we did this so that there was this very prescriptive way that we go about getting things done for the town. It was written in a way that matches federal policy, federal guidelines, and it's really the reason why we were able to get our federal grants, why we were able to get our our loan package put together, including the $3 million forgivable principal loan forgiveness. That's also a $3 million grant. That's the reason. We've used this. We've used different ways, like an RFQ, a request for qualifications, or a request for proposals. We've used those to get contractors. We currently have two RFPs out right now. Those proposals are for our almost 10,000 feet of the Western Loop replacement project. That's that water transmission line, the main line that closes the whole loop of our water system. We did it for our 2 million gallon tank relining project. And we also have one out right now for our raw water metering project. Those are currently out, and we use a different system to do it. But we've to push those out to a bunch of contractors. And I think Sam's going to go over that in a little bit, called BidNet. One of the things that I'll go over really quick is the request for qualifications. We typically use that when we're looking for we're looking to procure goods or contractors. But let me see if I can pull one up. There should be one in the agenda packet. Was that housing needs assessment maybe?
Yeah, Safe Streets for All consultant for the
Oh.
RFQ.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you should still be able to see that. Okay. So well, this is a federally funded project. So it's a grant funded project. It is our Safe Streets for All consultants. That engineering firm is Consor Engineering. I think you heard from them at our last meeting, but this was the RFQ that was put out or pushed out that procured them. We had over 10 firms submit their qualifications, and they were scored based on really prescriptive information by a scoring committee. In this one, we actually put in how much we have available. It was, budgeted for that project, what we received from the feds, and then what our expected match was going to be, the town's expected match. The point of it was to create a comprehensive safety action plan. But these are typically put together. These RFQs are put together by staff based on what we're looking to procure. I want to go over some of the elements of this. We've modified this over time. We've improved what goes out over time. One of the things that we changed in RFQs and RFPs is that, hey, we don't accept paper anymore unless it's really specified that we do. Because we have, I'm kind of getting off. But because we use BidNet, one of the ways people tried to submit them was just through BidNet, and we had to be pretty prescriptive to say, no, you have to email it to us in order for it to be received. And those are some of the elements that you'll see in here. Like for example, on page 3 of the packet, it says only emailed PDF proposals sent to these 2 email addresses are accepted by this date, which means you can't just submit it through BidNet and expect it to be received. We used an RFQ, even though we didn't know what the prices were going to be. We knew what the budget was what we had budgeted and what we had available for it, but we didn't know how people would come in because we were really looking at their qualifications. We really wanted to see the most responsible and the fullest responses. The contractor or the consultant that provided the best responses, and we scored those. So an RFQ is a request for qualifications. It can also mean request for quote, but it's usually defined if it's a quote. An RFQ or a request for qualifications is used to obtain specific information regarding a vendor's qualifications. In this case, it was Consor Engineering's qualifications, and what their ability is to provide the service that we're looking for. In this case, we need a community safety action plan because that's what the federal grant pays for. So this is what it looks like. The first couple of pages are just background information. What we're really looking to get out of from the consultant, and what we have available for the consultant to review to help with creating that community safety action plan. We also gave a little bit about the town of Paonia, and then the site description. One of the things that we talked about, I believe, was like our crash data that was available, and most recently when we had that tragic the cyclist that was killed on 3rd Street over by the library. So we included that information because this is we really needed a community safety action plan. That's part of that Safe Streets for All program. But we put that background information in. The next element to that is a scope of services, what we're actually looking to get out of the consultant. So in this case, we were looking for a scope of services that included planning and data collection, community and stakeholder engagement. That's actually a requirement for the federal grant, is that we have this stakeholder engagement. Stakeholders and community is not just residents in Paonia in this instance, but it's also visitors to Paonia, our different agencies that we work with, including CDOT, Delta County, the school board, all of that. And then we were asking for them being those people that were going to reply to this RFQ. We were looking to get their plan, how they think that they're going to be able to collect that data, how they're going to engage our greater community, and then what they would do, their means and methods for developing that community safety action plan. We also say, hey, throughout this process, we need to have quarterly reporting, so we would like you to assist with that. Meaning, the town needs something in writing for each step of the way that can be reported. In this case, the Federal Highway Administration, to make sure that we're meeting their requirements and deliverables. And then all of our contractors, when it's federally funded or even with our loan program, they have to follow federal guidelines like Davis-Bacon wages. So that's that paying a prevailing wage. We have to do income survey or payroll surveys and interview those employees that work for them. In some of our construction projects, we'll also need to do either Build America, Buy America reporting, or AIS, which is a steel certification saying that you've bought American steel, and they have to come with certificates saying they were. The next element is the requirements for submitting a proposal. So for those people that we're going to put in for being considered, they have to there's certain things that they have to be, or that they have to give us for consideration. In this case, we asked for several items. We asked for a cover letter and a submission checklist. The submission checklist is actually something that changed in late 2025 because we had submissions where they forgot things. And so I created a checklist that can be easily updated depending on what we're looking for, so that somebody that's submitting a proposal can make sure they go through and check it to make sure that they've included those things that are required. But then a cover letter just giving an explanation of what's all in that document. Their firm qualifications and experience, we asked for that. Who's going to be on their team? We wanted to see their project team, their qualifications, their key staff, their points of contact for each different milestone that they're proposing. Their project understanding and approach. This is where we start getting into their means and methods. How are they going to, do they truly grasp the project and understand the project? And what's their approach to meeting what we're looking for within their scope of services? Then we ask for quality assurance and compliance. Those things would be like, how are they going to make sure that in this instance, the Community Safety Action Plan adhered to Americans with Disabilities Act. And then most recently, the ADA changed again with what's called PROWAG, the Public Right-of-Way and Accessibility Guidelines. That went into effect, I think it was November of 24. And so it was the most substantive change to the ADA since I think 2010. But it was necessary. And then Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, how are they going to make sure that whatever they produce, complies with all of these different requirements? Scheduling and availability, do they have the capacity to get things done by the grant deadline? That's what was asked for. And then references. Provide us with some references that, for that firm or those people that are proposing, so that we can check up on them. And then any other required information. In this instance, we required a proof of insurance, meaning that they could meet our liability insurance requirements. And those were things that were set by the state, and our town attorney wanted to make sure it was in there as well. The next element was to give submission instructions. So we say, okay, here's where, if it were like a construction project, we need sealed bids for that. And that's going to be in that request for proposals that I'm going to talk about in just a second. But if there was any sort of difference for how a proposal should be submitted, it's going to be enumerated in this section. Let's see. the selection process. We also talk about the selection process and how the people submitting proposals will be evaluated. So, how they would be scored. And then included in that, we gave like our anticipated schedules so that they knew what it would look like. And then that proposal evaluation, here's how they're going to be scored. There was a maximum of 500 points, and they were going to be looked at by these different criteria. Our town attorney asked that we put in our general terms and conditions, just to make sure that anybody that's submitting a proposal made sure that our general terms and conditions that is typical for anybody doing business with the town was okay with the firm that was submitting their proposal. That way there was no surprises. If we selected somebody, they were a top proposal, and then it came time to negotiate a contract. They go, no, we don't like that. We were putting our general terms and conditions up front so that they could see how we operate, how we do business. We also gave this submission deadline. Then one of the big things that we talked about was a reservation of rights. So this is something that should be in every RFQ and RFP or a variation of it. The town reserves the right to reject any or all proposals, to waive any informalities or irregularities, and to request new proposals if deemed in the best interest of the town. This would also allow us to allow somebody who truly had the intention of submitting something, didn't get it attached, and then we go back to them and say, hey, you need this. This was something our attorney asked that we included. Termination of contract, that was also what our attorney asked for. And then here's the checklist. So this is the checklist that can be changed for any RFQ or RFP. This is to make sure that those proposals anybody submitting a proposal goes through and says, yep, I've got all of this before they actually submit that document. And then what we also did was we wanted those people that were submitting for both RFQs and RFPs to be able to see how they would be scored. And so in this instance, we showed here's how we're going to score you. For this one, let's see, firm qualifications and experience. The weight is 25. So if somebody were to score a 1 on this number, this firm qualifications and relevant experience, the amount of points that they'd have is just 25. If they scored a 4, they would have received 100. If they received a score of 5, it's 125 points. We weighted them because to the scoring committee, some of these criterion were more important than others. Even though the other criterion was important, we thought there was their qualifications and experience with federal grants, especially with ADA compliance and Federal Highway Administration, funded projects. We thought that was really important. So that's an RFQ. One of the other ones that was done prior to my arrival that we thought would be a good one was an RFP for the Housing Needs Assessment Action Plan and Housing Action Plan. This one was put together, even though we did one proposal. I think it was for our water attorneys. I think that's what it was. This is one that was put together as well. And a request for proposal is when we really know what we want and we're asking, we're really prescriptive in what we're asking for. Like construction projects, we have this bid manual as well for them to, for people to go by. And that's what an RFP is for. In this case, we knew what we wanted with the housing needs assessment, housing action plan. We knew what our maximum budget was, couldn't exceed that. We knew what our deadline was, and we wanted all of those things in here. Again, you can see what these elements look like. It's a project description and a little bit of information about the town, the housing needs assessment requested scope of work, what we're actually looking for, and then an action plan. These were all state mandated. We had to get a housing needs assessment, housing action plan. They required those things, and that's why, this was pushed out to find a firm. I think this is the one that ended in urban rural rural continuum. They're the ones that completed the housing action plan and housing assessment. Let's see. I'm trying to see. Again, we provided a schedule in this one, when we expected to have certain things by. These were milestones that were already determined before the RFP went out. One of the big pushes for this is that, it really needs to be a community outreach, needs to have public outreach. We need to be, whoever that consultant was needed to really engage with the community. There's a deadline and, what everyone would be looking, what they would be graded on or scored on in order to be selected. This was before we improved that to add here is the score sheet that's gonna accompany this RFP, and here's this checklist to make sure that whoever's submitting has met all of the criteria. But this is really prescriptive. It's part of that purchasing policy manual that was adopted by resolution in 24. And then once one is done, we typically send it to the board for their, for them to review, and then it gets pushed out on BidNet. Sam, do you want to show BidNet, or do you want me to log in and show BidNet?
You'd probably be able to explain it better since I've just started using it, so.
Okay, give me 1 second while I find it. I don't know how to stop sharing my screen. Am I sharing right now?
Yes.
Okie dokie. That's not what I'm gonna do. Okay, let's see. Okay, so this has been what we try to do with what BidNet is. It's a free service for us, part of the Rocky Mountain e-purchasing system. It's utilized by municipalities and the state in Colorado, and it's something that pushes everything out to relevant vendors, people that would be interested in bidding or submitting a proposal for an RFQ, an RFP, an invitation to bid, or even an RFQ, request for quotes. So some of the new solicitations that we can do, are like goods and services, construction, road, or a quick quote. And we have, like I show in here, we have 2 that are active right now, that are open with a closing date. One of them has a closing date of tomorrow, and the other one has a closing date of June 8th. So the RFP 2026-02 raw water monitoring, that one closes tomorrow. It has been published. We didn't have any addendums. Oh no, it does have one addendum published. Sam, you must have published that. Yeah.
No, I think James and Ruben worked on that one.
James and Ruben worked on it. So that means that we got some questions in, and we published an addendum. So anyone that received the solicitation or this request, all of them received the addendum, which are like responses to questions at once. That way, at the same time. That way we didn't leave anybody out. We didn't forget about anybody. With these 2, since they are construction projects, raw water monitoring is hundreds of thousands of dollars, or is expected to be hundreds of thousands of dollars. That one is coming as a sealed bid. So that's why we're going to open tomorrow. We're going to open bids. And what we do is we read off the firm that submitted them, we read off their price, and then we go through each one and we just say, okay, these are the ones that we've received. We're going to take it under advisement, score them independently, and then give the results all to the Board of Trustees for their review. We'll do the same thing for the RFP 2026-01, that Western Loop 8-inch water main replacement project. That's the Western Loop replacement. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to open them all up and say what the cost is, take them under advisement, score them, and then present all of that information to the board at a public meeting. These bid openings are also public, so they will be recorded and open to the public as well. But you can see, let me just click through this RFP. Let's see. So this is what everyone sees. This is what gets pushed out, what's on the screen right now. You can see that any technical questions, we've got that person's contact information, that if you and that you're supposed to also keep Samira involved and Paonia at townofpaonia.com. We have participation requirements because we have to follow federal guidelines, since we have this is funded with a state revolving fund and has a $3 million grant attached to it. There's two different things we have to follow, which is disadvantaged business enterprise, women-owned business participation, meaning we're seeking those firms out as well. And then in our purchasing manual, we talk about how there's a local preference and then a preference for those two different types of firms that would respond to a solicitation, and there's a point differentiation or a differential that's given to them. We give general requirements. So in order to bid on this project, you have to do a bid deposit, you have to have employee background checks, you have to have insurance, you have to follow a safety standards plan, you have to have certified payroll, it is federally funded, and a prevailing wage is required. That's that Davis-Bacon Act. And then warranty information. We want warranties in case the work is, it has an issue down the road. We also have bonding requirements. We are requiring a 5% bid bond. We're requiring a 10% payment bond and a 10% performance bond. So those.
Can you explain what that means? What the 5% and 10% is related to?
Yeah, that's related to the total cost of the project. So that is an insurance requirement. We are asking them to produce these. Bond is an insurance, right? So we're asking the contractor to provide those insurance documents for our review and for our use. In case somebody comes back and goes, so a bid bond, I'll boil these down. I think that's what your question is, Mayor. A bid bond is if somebody submits a bid and we accept their bid and then they withdraw, we can pull off that bid bond so that we can go back out and find another person to do the work. A payment bond is if they're not paying their subcontractors, we're able to pull off that payment bond to make sure their subcontractors are paid. A performance bond is if somebody, and I may have to check on the payment bond because it may be related to us paying, but I'll have to double check. I believe it's paying their subcontractors. A performance bond is if the contractor gets the award and they started doing the work, but they're not performing. They've missed deadlines. They haven't mobilized. We can come back on that bond, go to our next, go down the line for our consultants or those people that have submitted proposals, and then select them and use that bond to pay for it. So these contractors are submitting insurance to make sure that they're performing, that they're paying their subcontractors, and that they don't, pull their bid after we've selected them after they've submitted. Okay, let's see addendums. So again, we publish these addendums so that everybody can see it. Communication, that's after you've done an addendum. Trying to see, I want to go down the line here. Here it is. Documents. So these are the documents that were associated with this proposal. The first one that went in was the original project was the project bid manual and the project bid drawings. So that's what people are bidding on. Then we had a mandatory pre-bid meeting, and because it was a mandatory pre-bid meeting, we had everybody sign in so that those are the people that can submit proposals. They had to attend the meeting in order to be able to submit. We also included the agenda or the agenda and the agenda and the minutes from that pre-bid meeting, so that if an estimator came for the project and had questions and they were answered, somebody back in their office could also see what was discussed. And then we also published the addendum.
And where did the addendum come from? Why did you have to do an addendum?
Well, let's open this one up. I think this addendum was because there were questions that came in. Aha! There were no questions that came in. So this is just an addendum saying, look, there were no questions that came in, and here are the meeting minutes and attendance sheet. So that's the only addendum. And that's a notice so that everyone is on the same playing field when submitting a bid. It's to make sure that we're giving a level playing field. We're not playing favorites. We're not, trying to get our buddies to get, to get the contract. That's the whole point of using a process that is through a platform like this where everybody gets the same answer at the same time. Because if somebody let's say somebody asked a question, we answered it because we like them or we've had a previous relationship with them, they would have an unfair advantage over somebody else that was proposing. And then let's say somebody pushed out an addendum 15 minutes before it was due, but the other person had 15 days to know what that addendum said. And in some cases, an addendum could be like, a question was asked, well, you said in here that you want HDPE pipe, but we're actually okay with like corrugated steel. There could be a price difference there that would give somebody an unfair advantage, if that makes sense. It gets rid of unfair advantages. Then with BidNet, you're able to choose categories of vendors that may be relevant or applicable to this. We sent it all out. When we were going through, I did select some vendors that provided materials because they may be selected by a contractor to provide those materials. And so they would be interested in getting this information out to be able to provide some of these contractors with a material list and a cost for those materials. But this is who we sent all of these are the general categories that this bid was solicited to. Here's the list of people that downloaded our plans. So you can see we had 66 individual firms download our RFP. And then if we go to the pre-bid sign-in sheet, you can see that we had, I think we had like 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We had 10. We actually had 10 contractors that attended the meeting, even though we had 66 download the drawings and the bid manual. However, some of these, like Ace Eaton Metals, some of these groups may be subcontractors that would provide materials for those contractors. So you can see how everything is put in. Another good one would be the other one that we have out to bid right now is that Western Loop. This one still has a week. The raw water metering has until tomorrow, but this one still has another week. We sent a courtesy email to this one. We knew, Roop Excavating has done work with us in the past. So we sent a courtesy email. You can do that. That doesn't give them an unfair advantage. It doesn't give it to them ahead of time. It just, rather than have an email come from BidNet with like a generic, hey, this has been posted, it's saying, hey, the town of Paonia has submitted this and they added you as for a courtesy email. In this one, we had plan holder, let's see, 95. We had 95 people download the plans and the bid manual because this one is in the millions. This project will be in the millions. We also sent it to S&S contractors. I think they're out of Delta, but they had expressed interest early on through one of our employees, and so we sent them a courtesy email. But when we hit it, they didn't get the courtesy email ahead of time that this RFP was posted. They got it as soon as we hit post, along with everybody else. We do in this one. There's a lot of questions. So we actually had several addendums. Let's see what addendum number 3 is. It's going to be big because it's taking a while to download. So give me a second. Okay. So here's the addendum modifications. You can see all of the items that were modified by our engineers and on what sheets they were modified by, so that now, excuse me, for example, this was like the bid form was modified. Now everybody that is interested in the project gets this addendum at the same time, stopping unfair advantages. So here's some of the things that were changed. Line item number 5, 12-inch PVC DR14 pipe. They updated the quantity for linear feet. Number 6, 12-inch gate valve. They updated the quantity for 5 each. Number 7, 8-inch PVC DR14 pipe, 49 linear feet. So those are some of the things that got updated. Number 15, full service line and meter change out. It looks like this had a quantity there of like 1 or 2, and it was changed to 0. For whatever reason, a question came in. Our engineers said, you know what, you're right. We're going to remove that, so it's now 0 each. Meter and service change out, which is now 3 each. I don't know what it was previously, but so now everybody got this information at the same time. But this is BidNet. In the past, I know when we've submitted for different, I guess prior to 2023, when we submit for different things, we might get 1, maybe 2. Through BidNet, since I've been here, we've averaged about 10. So we've had 10 responses every time we've pushed something out to bid. That's really good. It's really good because what we're looking for is, the buzzword is most responsible and responsive submission, but it also helps with competitiveness and pricing. We really want a competitive price. Are there any questions so far on how BidNet operates?
And just have at it. You don't have to wait for audience or trustees. If you have a question, just say so.
So I would like just a little more specific clarification, if I may, make sure I understand. RFPs, we know the work that we want done, and so we are looking for a contractor, and these are typically on a time deadline to have their proposals put into us. And a qualifications RFQ is for a specific contractor or good, looking to procure something specifically, and we need to have their vendors' qualifications and experience specifically. Am I close?
Flip it.
No.
Yeah. So like the reason we're doing a request for proposals for construction project is because we're looking for sealed bids, and Oh man, let me show you. Let me just show you.
Just trying to
What they
break
look-
it down into something like simple, it's RFPs are for sealed bids, RFQs are for,
You can't be that simple. So
Okay.
let me
Got
show
it.
you what this RFP looks like. This is the bid manual. It's going to take a little bit to download here.
I
We
do have an
really,
RFP in front of me.
yeah, this is the one that's for a construction project. So there's going to be different types of RFPs and RFQs, right? This one we're actually looking for a contractor to do some construction work.
Yes.
And so this is the bid manual that went out.
So this is really prescriptive.
Correct.
Bid
This is
manual.
472 pages of this is what we want and we know what we want.
Okay, so
it's already been-
prescriptive, could you define that in this context for me?
Yeah, 472 pages of not just general requirements, but if there's any concrete, where the project is, what materials are needed, where things are going, all of that. Here's how many linear feet of pipe you're going to need. Here's how many I don't know valves you're going to need. So it's in this. What's on the screen right now is a 472 page bid manual. This one will also have. This one's going to take a little bit as well, but it also has drawings. So not just a bid manual, to guide us, but then also drawings. And so, for example, this one, shows you, the almost 2 miles worth of pipe that's getting replaced. Oh my goodness! And this is 48 pages worth of drawings. These are all the general notes. These are, I think this was our firm map. So for this one, we also had to say, hey, look, there are some wetlands and marshes that you have to be cognizant of. And so we included that. Let's see. I can't really read what this one is. And then here's where proposed mains are, existing mains, what needs to be demoed, different sheets. And then here it is, each page, almost by property, where that line's going to go. I know one of the questions, and then I think one of the addendums that came up for this specific project was based on a question that came up was, do you want it surveyed as, before the project really kicks off, and then as the project continues? And we said, yes, we want to know what our limits are within our easements, and then we need you to follow your as-builts, or we need surveys for as-builts, because we not only want the work done, but we also want to know where it's put in. And so we need those as-builts afterwards. Let me go to an RFQ. Let me see if I can pull one up it's going to have to be one that's already closed.
Okay.
Okay, IT services. So here's an RFQ for IT services. This is what we use to procure Astonish as a vendor. We knew somewhat of what we wanted, but we really wanted them to tell us, what it's going to take. And then we kind of did like a modified RFQ for this one because we also wanted to know price from all of the people that, sent in submissions. We wanted to know how much it was going to cost us a month. And you can kind of see where where we're saying, hey, here's the scope of services that we think we're going to need. Here are some of the requirements that we need. For example, you have to have a level 4 CJIS support certification in order to be able to do anything with the police department. CJIS is the Criminal Justice Information Services Security Policies. So that's a national framework for IT services. But then we wanted them to give us, we wanted to be able to evaluate submissions based on the most qualified vendor and then to be able to negotiate a contract with them afterwards. So that's kind of what we ended up doing was we wanted them to give us what their monthly price was going to be, but then we negotiated a contract after that RFQ was, after the winning proposal was selected. For that RFP, we knew exactly what we were looking for that provider, and we wanted them to give us a sealed bid. So when we open it up, we can go, aha, here's what the cost will be. I think, Mayor, what you guys are looking for a search firm is you're going to want an RFP, I think. Is that right?
I don't know. Now I'm confused.
I'm sorry.
And the reason I'm confused is, let's see, so we know certain thing, I guess it's just that that firm is gonna tell us things they can do that we may not be aware of. Does that make it an RFP?
I think that would be an RFQ.
An
RFQ. Yeah, because they're going to be the most qualified. You're looking for the most qualified. Well, you know what? If you're saying, hey, look, we're looking for we know that we want an administrator. We want you to find an administrator. But we don't necessarily know how we're going to get there. We want you to tell us your means and methods on how you're going to do that. I think that would be you're asking for a proposal. You're asking them to say, here's our qualifications, here's our expertise, and here's the path that you need to take in order to get a new administrator.
So you think
that
it's
would
RFP?
I think it would be an RFP. Yeah, that's right. Because they're going to tell you they may come up with something that no one has ever thought of. That would be really good. They're going to take some of the weight off of. Well, you remember the last search, right? I think three times.
Yeah, and I just lost your name, Pete. So let me just add one thing. So for instance, since we are going to be doing an RF something for an executive search firm, we're in a position where that firm can tell us something that they can do that would be unique to the Western Slope, for instance, that we wouldn't know even exists, which makes it more of a proposal. Okay, Pete, go ahead.
My question just is, like, most of those companies on BidNet are bidding on all other things. So like I have been researching, like I'm on BidNet. I've been researching other RFPs for the executive search to know how much they cost. How much of that goes into shaping the current RFP? Like looking at all the other things. So it's like, otherwise we're just sort of getting who comes to us. Are we looking broadly across BidNet to understand?
I think that
services are offering and things like that.
I guess I'd say I've not used BidNet, so I don't know. Stefan, when you're putting together an RFP or RFQ, are you looking at BidNet, what's out there to use as a guide for things to put in?
No.
Similar?
So yeah, I think you could use that as like a starting point, but really when you're developing an RFP, it should be done in-house based on what you guys are looking to accomplish, right? So are you talking specifically for price?
So like the last bid on a job for an executive search for like a town of our size was, I don't have the name in front of me right now, it was like $19,800 or something like that. Are you using that to shape like what you're putting out for, what you're getting for that money, right? There's different amounts and things to understand how to steer this.
Well, from my perspective, I'd like to see how the people wrote their RFP.
Yeah, of course.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know about the money part as much, it gives you a range. But
we
I
wouldn't
wanna
go
see
through
some-
we wouldn't go through BidNet to grab one of those. We would ask one of our listservs to send us something. So if we don't already have one, so we would ask like the clerk's listserv, hey, did you guys hire an executive search firm? If so, can we take a look at your RFP?
Well, we only got one though. We got one from Florence. I kind of like the idea of seeing what else is on BidNet.
I can provide that for you.
Yeah, well, I can
do it.
I can look at it.
No, it's easy. I can do it before we leave this meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because it seems like just getting some other language, some things that other people thought of might not be a bad thing. Since the last time we did an executive search was for the police chief. And I don't have a copy of that RFP that went out, but yeah. But it just seems like at least hitting up as many spots as possible.
Well, and to my knowledge, staff hasn't been tasked with doing anything for an RFP yet, for a search firm. Once that's done, then we'll start working towards that.
Well, we need one for the June 9th meeting. We need a draft to go in front of the trustees for June 9th to kick this off. So we need, so what I have that I've looked at is what you're doing now with the qualifications, all the, what am I saying? The boilerplate that needs to be in there based on the attorney, and then the qualifications worksheet, what's the worksheet you call it, where you're scoring, that scoring worksheet needs to be in there as well. So to me, we have a deadline of Friday to get something in front of the trustees. So anything that helps with content, I have a little bit of content, but, because I'm putting together the first draft of this to then send to Sam and Stefan to look at before it gets posted. So Pete, I would like to see what are the ones you have. Okay, if you want to just email them to me, that'd be great. Just for some content, because yeah. And I was not sure about RFQ, RFP, but it sounds like a RFP. But the other thing is, Stefan, I just want to ask you jargon. So whether somebody is submitting in response to an RFP or an RFQ, do you call what they submit to the town a proposal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be a proposal, no matter
Okay.
what. Yeah.
So it's all right.
I mean, you could use submission if you want, but the colloquial is proposal.
Okay. Other questions?
So you use an RFP for searching for, like, just personnel employment?
No,
What is that?
that's a whole different story. How to hire employees. That's a whole HR thing. And I can't answer that. I just know it doesn't go to BidNet. No, it's a whole nother,
okay.
anyway.
Other than that, how would a citizen just, without having access to BidNet, you put the RFP out on the website
The RFP has to, well,
as a, like a,
well, the RFP is in the agenda packet. That's the place where because the RFP has to be approved by the trustees before it can go on BidNet. So that's one place that the draft, at least, or a well-done draft goes, and then it can be changed, modifications made, and then it goes out. But is there a place on the website that shows, didn't we have a place where RFPs that are out there are listed in there, drop down for
I
the
think that was before
BidNet?
before BidNet, and I think we put the final award on there. Because I think I could be wrong here, but I think one of the things behind that was so it doesn't confuse the issue. Everybody's going to the same place. I'm pretty sure it doesn't cost you anything to sign up for BidNet. So,
Feel free to.
yeah,
Feel free to.
and I was gonna say, and I know I got, when this went out, I got a lot of emails from people asking where the bid documents were because BidNet pushes it out onto different places. So I had to direct them to, hey, all the documents are on BidNet for you to download. So,
because I find if I search in the website, West Loop water main replacement Paonia, I can't really find anything sort of, I mean, it's a lot hidden in the packets and things like that, but substantially like just the, complete sort of thing with the maps and things like that. So that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, on our website, we have a place for requests for bids and proposals, active RFPs, but it's last time was the town attorney. So is there any anticipation of putting a link update? Could we put a link to a proposal in this dropdown on the town website? There's active RFPs, which is a little bit stale, and then awarded RFPs are on there as well. And then it has click on the link to redirect to BidNet Direct and access the RFP documents. So let me go there. And you just have to register. Or log in, I imagine.
You're talking about BidNet, so
What's that?
BidNet?
Yeah. So there is a link on the town website in that rightmost set of drop downs I want to. There's a link to back up, requests, bids and proposals. And then what comes up is stale, but you do have a link to get to what's currently there. And I think anybody, yeah, can create an account. So then, Stefan, once that account is created, we can see everything you just showed us in BidNet. There's no special PIN number, anything to get into the subdirectory you showed us.
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. So does that help for being able to look at stuff? Other questions, comments? All good?
All good, yes.
So this has been recorded for the trustees. I know that, weren't able to make it, just to have it as short. And let's see, when did we get started? At about 6:30? Okay, so 7:30. Yeah, so a little bit over an hour, but if nobody has anything else, we'll adjourn the meeting. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for your time, Stefan.
Yeah.
Of course.
Thank you.